Hi, I'm Rebecca from ArtsNursery, and today I'm going to share 11 secrets of how to effectively water your garden during the hot summer months. Proper watering techniques depend on the type of plant, the location, the type of soil, the weather, and the time of the year. Before we start watering, it's important to know the needs of your plant. Some like it dry, some like abundant moisture, while most others like moist but well-drained soils. The only way to truly know and learn is to learn through experience. First, find out if your plant needs water. The easiest way is to lift the pot. If the pot is light, then your plant is dry. If it's heavy, it probably has enough moisture. You can't always do the lift test, especially with large plants, large pots, or established gardens. There are tools to help you. You can use a moisture sensor, or you can use the best tool you have, your finger, and simply check the soil. You want to make sure that it's moistened at least several inches down, and not just on the top 1 to 2 inches. Another way to check your soil for moisture is to grab a handful. Squeeze it. If it crumbles on you, you know your soil is too dry. If it forms a solid mass that is tight and leaves imprints of your fingers, almost like a clay ball, you know it's too wet. But if it forms a solid ball and then is loose or somewhat falls away, it's probably just right. The type of soil has a great impact on watering. Sandy soils will moisten easily, but will dry out very quickly, while clay soils will retain moisture, but are often difficult to rehydrate once they have dried out. Potting mixes are mainly peat-based, and they will retain moisture as well, but are also a challenge if they dry out. The second tip is to adjust your watering schedule as needed. Reduce your watering when rainfall is abundant, and increase it when it's hot and dry. It's common sense. Don't let your plants dry out. If they collapse or wilt, it may be too late to revive them. The third tip is to water at the right time. Early morning is best. If you get your leaves wet, it'll have all day to dry out, and it's harder for diseases to get a foothold on dry leaves. If you water in the afternoon or midday, you'll lose a lot to evaporation. If you water in the evening, the leaves could be wet going into the cooler temperatures of the night, which is a perfect recipe for mildews, molds, and all kinds of plant disease-related problems. So it's best to water in the morning. The fourth tip is to invest in the right watering tools. I learned a long time ago, life is too short for a cheap hose. Invest in the right tools, you'll be happier, your plants will be happier. There's great hoses out there, watering cans, and lots of specialty wands. So no excuses. Don't put your thumb over the hose and call it good enough. Using too much water pressure, or what we call fire hosing, can actually damage the plant, shoot soil and fertilizer out of the pot, and actually not really deliver the right amount of water to the plant at all. So your fifth tip is check your pressure, turn it down, and reduce it before you start to water. Sixth tip is to water slowly. If you water thoroughly, you'll encourage the roots to grow downward and create a better plant in the process. The deeper and more thorough you can water, the better. Obviously, larger plants need more water, smaller plants need less. If you water lightly and more frequently, as many people do, you could be putting your plants at higher risk in this hot weather. By only surface wetting the soil, you're encouraging the roots to grow in that layer, and a lot of evaporation can happen. Plus, if the roots are in this layer, they can become very, very vulnerable to the hot and dry soil. Avoid watering the leaves and foliage of plants as much as possible. It's a waste of time, a waste of water, and it can spread the disease. This is especially true with roses and tomatoes. So water the soil, not the foliage. The eighth tip is to repeat water. If you happen to water too fast or too much all at once, it's possible that the water will run to the edges of the pots, down the sides and out the bottom, or run on the outer edges of a root ball, leaving the center dry. So it's very important to water slowly and deeply, and repeat if necessary, especially for large pots, large trees, or larger plants. The ninth tip is water your baskets properly. If you see it swaying in the wind, it may be too light. Do the lift test. Lift your basket. If it's heavy, it has the moisture. If it's too light, it's going to need a good watering. To do a good watering, you can set up a drip system, or like we do here, take your watering wand. Don't just water the foliage, get that wand into the center of the basket and water the soil. Count for several seconds, wait till the water is draining out of the base of the basket, and you'll know you'll have watered it deeply and thoroughly. The 10th tip is for newly planted trees. We know we need to water deeply and thoroughly. You may want to consider investing in a tree gator or a similar product. It's essentially a bag that wraps around the trunk of a tree and slowly drips water to the root zone below. It can be very effective and help you save and hydrate your trees during the hot summer months. Finally, in your garden, mulch as much as possible. We recommend 2 to 3 inches of mulch around your whole garden, especially around the root zone. This will help keep moisture in the root zone. It'll help moderate the temperature of the soil, and it will help suppress weeds. So there you have it, 11 great tips on how to keep your garden healthy and hydrated during these hot summer months. If you have any other questions, come down to Arts. We're here to help you. We've got great horticulturalists that can provide you with additional help, answer any of your questions, and give you some great tips and advice.